In Colossians 1:15, it says, who is the image of the invisible God. Now, God is a life giver. God, the invisible God, is light. The invisible God is life. From this invisible God came forth the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creatures. The firstborn creature from the invisible God is the image that produced and came forth from the invisible, which we as Christians also claim it to be Jesus, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creatures. And so, seeing then that Jesus is the image of the invisible God, as it is stated in Colossians 1:15, Jesus being the image of the invisible God also appears, being the image of an invisible God who cannot be seen. So Jesus is this manifesting life that comes from the invisible God. Okay, this is the light story. This is that which emanates to life. Okay, so he is the Son of God. He is also the King in heaven. In the Bible, it also references him as the angel of the Lord, and different teachings that I taught in the past, that he is the angel of the Lord, captain of the hosts in the heavens. And so, he being the image of the invisible, the firstborn of all creature, it is he also that sits at the right hand of the Lord. As David also explained, the Lord said unto my Lord, sit at my right hand. So, he is also a prince to the invisible God, the one who sits on the throne alone. He is king of the king, and he is king over man as well, in the spiritual heavenly Jerusalem. So since the Spirit of Christ was the firstborn of every creature, meaning that the Spirit of Christ was the very first ghost king that emanated from God's eternal spirit, first spirit that was born through this eternal spirit, the first spirit that came from this womb of a great wonder in heaven, of a mother also, that not only appears in the physical but also gives sanctuary to the angels, which also gave birth through this invisible God, and also had birth the image that reflected and came to life. So it's this, the Spirit of Christ, which is the very first ghost king that emanated from God's eternal spirit as well, making him king of the heavenly kingdom, who is known as the angel of the Lord, the captain of the host. John's 1:1-5, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Being that no man could see God at any time, being that he is a great ball of light and a great power of light, okay? And he is a life giver, and he is the creator. He is the one who gave life to all things that are made by him. And so, being that through this invisible light, the first to emanate from it is known as Jesus Christ, which is the Father and the Son. And so the Father and the Son are one in the Trinity, being that they are one and the same and come and reflect from one each other. So now that the image of life appears, one must understand that not only does Jesus also live here, but there's also angels that live here, multitude of angels, and the four beasts and the 24 elders that sit on the throne and worship God day and night. There are many angels, multitudes of angels that also appear as well, that are alive in heaven. Okay? Now, when we as human beings look at the physical nature of our universe, we see the sun, the moon, and the stars, which this wonder which appeared in heaven was created by the invisible, who created heaven. But being that we are mortal and on earth, and and not spiritual. That which was spiritual was also there in the angelic realm before man was ever created. And so the angels also lived in some kind of womb where the kingdom of heaven reigned in God. And so God, being invisible and his son producing forth, lived in his kingdom, okay, along with many angels. And so this woman also represents a great womb where the angels also live. This is like the wonders of heaven that appeared, that give life and an established setting for the angels. And also when God created man and created earth, also it gives the carnalized mind also the focus of a great mother that appears in the universe, being the proof of God's conscience brought into life. And so the eternal spirit is not what we see, but the thing that we can't see, in which Jesus, who through the eternal spirit entered and offered himself to God. And so this eternal spirit is also a living power, which the angels and the spirits and the angel of the Lord, all the Holy Spirits of God live there in one united power of God as well. When the Spirit became flesh and Christ was born and entered into the earth, Christ once again also became king of this fashion of man here on earth, his own royal bloodline through Mary and Joseph. So not once did Jesus ever lose his deity, not even when passing through the veil, which is to say the flesh. And I'm going to show you in the next several chapters how this is possible. St. John's 18:36. Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. Now is my kingdom not from hence." So Jesus is saying, my kingdom is not of this world. His kingdom is also known as the heavenly Jerusalem. His kingdom is home to him. Although he was here on earth and he went through temptations and he had situations that he had to live through and learn obedience by things which he suffered, in his very own eyes and perspective, he himself knew that his kingdom was not of this world. His authority was in heaven, and his authority was not on the earth. His armies are the angels which are in heaven, and not the armies that are on the earth, to protect him from the Jews. Jesus himself understood this. And so he's saying it's not of this world. He's talking about not the aura of this power. He's not talking about planet Earth, not of this world. His palace is not on this foundation. His palace is in the kingdom of heaven, in the heavenly Jerusalem. So he knows that he has a kingdom that is somewhere else, not on this land. And when he says not of this world, that means this world. Doesn't mean that he will also return later from being at the right hand of God in heaven and would return back and bring this place down here for 1,000 years. That's a whole different concept which I'm about to teach. He's not going to bring heaven here, okay? Because he has already ascended up on high and led captivity captive and appears in the presence of God for us.